Good morning everyone, how are you today? Welcome to my Draw With Me video. I hope you're ready to get a little cozy. You could get a cup of tea or coffee or just snuggle up in a blanket or anything that makes sense for you. If you should hear any scratching noises, it's just Pearl walking around in the cage. Otherwise, I think it's time for me to start drawing, and you are of course welcome to draw with me. For this video, the topic is going to be self-care, as you could read on the title. I'm going to be working on my front page for my future comic, which is also going to be focusing on self-care. Now that we're talking about self-care, I felt very terrible at many points through this video while I was drawing this front page. There was so many things I felt very bad about, and there's going to be a lot of buildings, and I am not good with buildings and backgrounds in overall. And having you guys looking over my shoulder, I definitely felt the pressure to be perfect, but I'm not. So I did make mistakes. I did use a long time on one thing that would just not look right. And you will see that through this video, because I decided to keep going and show you everything if it's possible without making this video a marathon. A quick note, this comic will take me 1 to 2 years to do before I will publish it, so don't get too excited, please. It takes time with comics, and that can be really frustrating as well, but that is not what we're going to talk about today. No, today I would like to talk about self-care, because that is a pretty big topic on its own. Now, with self-care, just like there is stereotypes for humans, I also think there is stereotypes for what self-care is. Some of the most known ones is meditation, yoga, and doing nothing. Now, these are all good if they match your personality. I've tried meditations, and I've tried it more than once, but I'm just at that point where I need to admit that meditation is not for me. It's just not the right way for me to stay in the present and let my brain be silent. I need a focus point. With that I mean, I need a thing that makes me focus so much I forget everything else. That could be a puzzle, for example, or basically everything that fits into a hobby. And I also think that's why having a hobby is such a recommended thing, because it is another way to meditate. It makes you focus on the only thing you're doing right there. Another common thing is when you think you need to take a break or do something self-care. It's often told that you need to do nothing, and that can be a good practice because it forces you to listen to yourself and only yourself and your thoughts going on in your head, which you might not always notice when you're doing something else. But at the same time, doing nothing can also be very self-destructive. I have sometimes tried to do nothing because I thought that's what I needed, and I just felt more and more awful. Yes, some of it was because I could hear the sad thoughts I never allow myself to hear when I'm busy, but it was also because doing nothing was not what I needed. It's actually very rare I need to do nothing. Instead, when I have been busy, what I need as a self-care thing is doing something else. And you know, it is called self-care, not just care, self-care. It's care for yourself. That means you need to listen what you need, not what is the common way to do it. Of course, they are good tips. It's tips from others telling you what works for them. And now I actually really do enjoy yoga, even though in the beginning I really did not like it. What changed? Well, first of all, the level of expectations for what I could do when doing yoga was lowered. So the yoga videos I do today is much more simple and very short. You know, some yoga lessons can be very long and you have to lay in a pose for very long. I'm not that type who enjoys that. I need yoga where it's short and simple and I feel like a champion afterwards because I actually managed to do it. And as I did the simple ones, I could then evolve to do a little bit more complicated, but still I do the very basic ones because that is just the level that is satisfying for me. So what is self-care for you? What is right for you? Even here we tend to think there is only specific answers. But you see, the tricky thing about self-care is that it can change all the time, so the answer might vary. It will most likely vary, depending on who you are, of course, because then there's people who love things to be the same and therefore their self-care things would be the same because that is what they need. You see why I call this complicated? There is a lot to it. So what I do recommend is try and listen to yourself, because often you will hear a voice telling you what you need. Now this will be complicated if you're not used to listen to yourself, if you're not used to practicing listening to what is the right voice, because of course we have also what is called the ego telling everything we're told we should do and should think. And that is not telling us what self-care is. That is often based more on fear than anything. So first of all, I recommend listening to yourself. But if you still feel lost, I thought I would list some things I can see as an opportunity for self-care, and then it's just try it out. Sometimes we just need to try it before we can find the answer, because otherwise, if you have not done this before, it's like looking for an answer you don't have yet. Just like in the school, many people tend to think they should know everything before they have even learned about it, or they can hear it once and then they should remember everything. And that's not the case. We only know the answer when we have heard it before, and often we need to hear it more than once. So here is something that could be considered self-care, which you might not thought about before. So first, the stereotypes, which you have most likely heard about before. Let's just take them again. You could try meditation. Then you can try out yoga. It could be other than yoga, but overall just moving your body. Some people love to exercise. I actually found this very recently to be a need I have. When I sit down for a very long time and get frustrated and sad and all those emotions, I find it very relieving to move my body and get all those feelings out of my system. So therefore, if you have had a tough day, a tough brain day with a lot of emotions, exercising in any way, that could be dancing, it could be running, it could be some kind of muscle exercise, whatever makes sense for you. Instead of meditation, you could also try positive affirmations. I have found these very helpful for me, but that's just because I'm me. If you haven't heard about positive affirmation, it's videos where they're telling you a lot of positive things, which we often need to hear but don't tell ourselves. And they are going to tell a lot of positive things which we people, humans, often find very terrifying, because it can lead to failure or disappointment. So when I'm listening to positive affirmations, I, in the beginning, feel very awful and I feel scared. Not because it's not good for me, but because it's triggering something I actually need, but I have been afraid of for a long time. I have been telling me a lot of things because I was scared, and I have let these scary thoughts take over. So when I suddenly hear a lot of positive affirmations, I feel alarmed. I feel like this is dangerous because it could lead to failure. And failure makes me sad. It makes me vulnerable. Therefore, listening and accepting positive affirmations feels like being vulnerable. Even so, I want you to keep listening. Because what often happens is that as we keep listening, we kind of accept it. And it then turns around to often people crying because this is something we often miss. It's something we doesn't get enough of compared to how much we actually need it on a daily basis. Here, that was a long one for positive affirmations, but I hope it gave you something. And this was just a few out of many self-care activities. Other things could be baking, cooking, doing any kind of hobby. I would like to mention some hobby things, but my knowledge when it comes to English words and hobbies is very narrow, so I cannot give you a lot just simply because I don't know the English terms for them. So I hope you will be willing to search for hobbies yourself. Or maybe just make a list of hobbies you know people have and see if any one of them would be interesting for you. And now again, I know we might feel scared that we will be disappointed or that we will feel bored, but that is once again because we fear to be disappointed. So try it out, just be open that you have no idea if this will be something for you, and you're just going to try it out and see how it goes. Now, if we could just quickly go back to when I mentioned self-care changing all the time, I want to talk a little bit deeper about this. As mentioned many times, self-care is what you need in the moment. So that means sometimes we can do something which is at that point feeling as self-care and is what we need. That could be just sitting down, watching a movie, eating snacks because that's just what we need. But then we find ourselves doing that all the time and we start feeling awful, more and more awful, and is in the end doing more bad to us than good. So that means this common self-care thing is not self-care anymore, which means suddenly self-care would be something else. As mentioned before, often self-care can just be to do something new. And if you do something very often which is seen as self-care, it can lose its purpose because then it's suddenly not something you do out of the ordinary. And it becomes a part of your routine and therefore lose its effect. Now, this is not always the case. I just wanted to put it in there because I personally tend to feel very exhausted, go in the sofa, watch a movie, and eat a lot of bad stuff. And then suddenly I feel more and more awful, I get sick, and it suddenly just becomes very sad overall. And it suddenly doesn't feel like self-care anymore, even though I used to enjoy it. So those are the times where I need to take care of myself by doing something else, like exercise, or find another way to take care of myself without putting a lot of unhealthy snacks into my body, and move because my whole body hurts and my brain hurts and I just feel awful and I don't know why, even though in my head I do hear a voice saying I need to move my body. Before I end this video, I will just very shortly say that small things can also be self-care, like gardening, cleaning, giving your plants water if you have any plants, tie-dye your clothes, go for a walk, look out the window. There is so many options, which doesn't have to be big or take a long time. It just needs to break your daily habit and break your thoughts out of this negative routine we tend to have. Or if we have been very, very happy for a long time, self-care can then be to cry or be mad, because we people need all emotions to be in balance. Yes, crying can be self-care too. Punching a pillow because you're mad or need to be mad because you have been happy for so long is self-care. So please listen to your body. Be open for any answers, as long as you of course do not hurt another living creature. But that is everything for today. I hope you're still here, I hope you're still awake, and that you're doing something that you needed right now. Because without self-care, without listening to ourselves and our own needs, not other needs, our own needs, we tend to feel very sad and unmotivated. It's your life. You need to have fun too. So please see your own needs just as equal as other people's needs. We all need to be seen. We all need to be heard. As always, I hope you guys are staying loving and caring, and I hope to see you in my next video. And now I will give you the option. You decide if you want to be a part of it or not, to get some positive energy through your body by starting this little short dance party.